Hey guys, welcome back to Dogforge. My name's Paul, and today we have a somewhat embarrassing video as I didn't realise that I never covered the Dragonlance feats, so today we'll be doing that. Now, there are some important things to bear in mind when going through the Dragonlance feats, and that is that it is kind of geared towards having a more powerful character on the basis that your character has survived in these wars. So some of these feats are based on getting a first level feat from your background, and the book Shadow of the Dragon Queen itself does also recommend that you have some first level feat options such as Tough, just to represent a character that has gone through the harshness of war. So let's jump on into it. So first of all, we have straight away a kind of indication of what we're going to be seeing here, and that is level gating and feat trees. We have both on show in this book. So first of all, we have Divinely Favoured, which is going to have a prerequisite of 4th level, and does actually have a prerequisite of Dragonlance campaign. This is in a lot of ways nice, as it does kind of cut through the ambiguity of, is this suitable for other kinds of campaigns? Of course, speak with your DM, they might just okay it all, and as long as everyone is aware of what the feats entail, I don't think they're entirely out of line for the campaigns as well. But it's certainly better than pumping out a bunch of overtuned content that is ambiguously, potentially available to other things, a la the Magic the Gathering settings. So, Divinely Favoured gives you one cantrip of your choice from the Cleric spell list. You also gain a first level spell based on your alignment, and the Augury spell. Now, Augury you're going to be able to cast without a spell slot once per long rest, but you are learning it, so you can cast it with any spell slots you do have. Alignment wise, if you are evil, you get to choose one first level Warlock spell. If you're good, you get to choose one first level Cleric spell, and if you are neutral, one first level Druid spell. You do get a free casting of that once per long rest, and you choose your mental stat for your spellcasting ability when you choose the feat, so your choice of Intelligence, Wisdom or Charisma. You also get the ability to use a holy symbol as a spellcasting focus for any spell that you cast that uses the spellcasting ability you choose with this feat. That means that if you are, for example, a sorcerer and you pick this up and you choose Charisma for the feat, you can use a holy symbol for all of your sorcerer spells as well. That's interesting, and given that you can have a holy symbol be an amulet or a ring, it does provide some flexibility to some casters that might otherwise be more restricted in using handheld things. In terms of what kind of spells you can or should take with this, for Warlock spells, standout options include Hex and Armour of Agathis. Cleric spells, Bless is a decent one, depending what you want to do. Having a free casting of Guiding Bolt might be nice. I'm always a fan of having a casting of Cure Wounds or Healing Word in my back pocket personally. And for a first level Druid spell, again, Cure Wounds, Healing Word, that kind of thing is a good option. And generally what I would recommend, although some people might prefer to go for something like Goodberry, for example. So, overall, a good feat. Augury is going to be very DM and table dependent. I wouldn't take this feat just to get Augury. But if you want the Cleric cantrip, which could very well be something like Guidance or Toll the Dead, and you just want to pick up some extra casting, then I think this is a pretty good feat. Gated at 4th level plus, I think that is appropriate because you are getting quite a lot of magic here, and particularly introducing free castings of divination magic at early levels. It's something that's best avoided, in my opinion. So overall, this is a pretty good feat that I would generally recommend if you're looking to squeeze a little bit more magic in. Moving on to more magic, Initiate of High Sorcery, and this is going to be more with how the magic system, generally speaking, works within the Dragonlance campaign, where you have mages divided by moons, and robe colour, kind of like Final Fantasy style. So this is going to have a prerequisite of, again, being in a Dragonlance campaign, and you need to be either a sorcerer or wizard, or have the Mage of High Sorcery background. So anyone with the background can take it, but if you are a sorcerer or wizard, that gives you a little flexibility for a different background, which could be interesting, especially if you're going to take a background for a martial feat that you'll see later on. So this is going to be based around entirely what moon you choose. So you have Nuitari, Lunitari, and Solanari. For Nuitari, you get to choose 2 first level spells from a list of Dissonant Whispers, False Life, Hex, and Ray of Sickness. Lunitari, you get to choose 2 from Colour Spray, Disguise Self, Featherfall, and Longstrider. And Solanari, you get to choose 2 from Comprehend Languages, Detect Evil and Good, Protection from Evil and Good, and Shield. So you get a free casting of each of these spells. However, you also learn it, so you can use any spell slots you have, and the spellcasting ability is a mental stat of your choice, which makes this very flexible for whatever core class and build you want to use it for. Generally speaking, just a quick touch on which spells individually stick out before we pick a moon overall. I would say both for Nuitari, Hex and False Life stand out to me, but Dissonant Whispers is also a good option because forcing somebody to run away is always kind of good and scales itself with your party's opportunity attacks. Lunitari, I would really say that Longstride is a nice bit of utility, and Disguise Self is going to be more fun and usable on a regular basis than Featherfall. And for Solanari, Shield is an obvious standout pick there, and Protection from Evil and Good can really change the tide of a battle, and something that could be really difficult to something that's very doable or even easy. For which moon I would really go for here, I think the easy standout in terms of raw combat power is going to be Nuitari. I think that Lunitari offers a good amount of utility. I think Solanari is honestly the weakest one here, even though it does offer shield. If you really want shield, then it's a decent option to pick up, as unlike Magic Initiate, you would be able to cast it yourself with your own spell slots. However, if I was going to be picking this feat, I would likely pick Nuitari or Lunitari. And between the two, probably Lunitari, as it's just nice to have the ability to use utility like Disguise Self and Longstrider, but not have to put in your own spell slot into it, to just always have those things available. We have some lovely artwork depicting each of the different robed wizards. So, black, red, and white, obviously. And then, depending which moon you choose here, is going to gate you out of other feats. So, each option has a corresponding secondary feat which is gated at 4th level. This means that you can't take both the background and Variant Human to get both. You're going to have to pick one or the other. So starting off with Black Robes, which would have been Dissonant Whispers, False Life and whatnot, you're going to get 2 features. Ambitious Magic is going to be a 2nd level spell of your choice from the Enchantment or Necromancy School of Magic. You're going to be able to cast that once a free per long rest, but you can also use your spell slots. And your spellcasting ability here is set by the previous Initiate High Sorcery feat. That will be the same across all of these. And your second feature is Life Channel. When you see a creature within 60 feet that fails a saving throw against a spell that deals damage you cast, for example, say Fireball, you could expend a number of hit dice equal to the level of the spell, so for Fireball 3, and then you roll the hit dice, add them together, and that damage increases by that total. So this is kind of like a saving based spell, Smite. However, this is expending hit dice to kind of represent channeling your own life energy into raw damage. I think it's interesting. I don't think it's particularly compelling. The kinds of characters that are going to be taking this feat I mean, Sorcerer and Wizard are explicitly named, but you might also have a Warlock. You're not going to have a particularly large hit dice to add on. It's not like you're likely going to be using d10s like a fighter would. So it's not going to be that much damage, and spending your hit dice in that way will very easily end up in having a short rest where you don't have enough hit dice left to actually heal yourself. So I don't personally rate this feat very well. It's one that I would definitely skip myself, especially when some of the others are much more compelling. Adept of the Red Robes, which is for the Lunitari option from Initiate of High Sorcery, sorry. So this one's going to give you a 2nd level spell from the Illusion or Transmutation School of Magic. And then Magical Balance is going to be the 2nd feature, which is going to be much more versatile and useful, and not as punishing as Channel Life. When you make an attack or an ability check, when rolling 9 or lower, you can balance it and treat it as a 10 instead, kind of like Reliable Talent from a Rogue. And you can do that a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you gain all expended uses on a long rest. So this is going to be great just for everyone, really. Even if you're not making attack rolls, which any caster could do even with cantrips like Firebolt, you still have the option of using it on ability checks. Now, because it just specifies ability check, that means that this is usable on initiative as well, which allows you to set your initiative at a minimum value, which can be very valuable when you have spell casting on hand that can really shape the battlefield of a combat going forwards. So this is a much more powerful feat, and given that this would come with the versatility of Disguise Self and Longstrider in my personal choice, this is what I would lean to more. However, the Solamnia option does get very tempting. So Solamnia is going to give you a 2nd level spell from Abjuration or Divination. Now, I'm not going to give you guys specific examples of what spells you can choose for that. All of these, like, you can look them up fairly easily on D&D Beyond, and there are a lot of feats to go through. Now, Protective Ward is where this gets interesting. When you or a creature you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction and spend a spell slot, and then roll a number of d6s equal to the level of the spell slot and reduce the damage by that dice roll plus your spellcasting ability. So if you use a 1st level spell, it's going to be a d6 plus, probably 4 or 5 by the time you have this feat. That has the potential to obviously eat your spell slots. That is quite expensive potentially, especially since you're most likely going to have shield for your 1st level slots from Initiative High Sorcery, but you also have a free casting of shield from the feat, and the ability to reduce damage can become extremely valuable in terms of maintaining concentration as well. So this has a lot of benefit in my opinion, and out of the 3 Adept of Robes feats, I think personally the best one is going to be Red Robes because Magical Balance is insane. Protective Ward makes this an easy 2nd, and just the high cost for the relatively low damage bump means that Black Robes and their Life Channel are going to come in 3rd. Moving on to the more damage orientated things, here we have the Squire of Solamnia feat, prerequisite Dragonlance campaign of course, and then this is going to be Fighter or Paladin or the Knight of Solamnia background. So we're pushing this towards martial characters, and specifically, unless you have the background, more traditional or ordered, noble kind of traditional martial characters, rather than things like barbarians and rangers. So this is going to, and just a quick note, like all of these feats going forward are going to be kind of like Battlemaster maneuvers, but they're not Battlemaster maneuvers, which gives you a very weird situation where you can have a lot of stuff that you can really stack on top of each other, which can be pretty interesting. First ability is going to be Mount Up. Mounting or dismounting only costs you 5 feet of movement. This is incredibly niche. This is not going to come up a great deal. However, if you are playing a paladin and you have access to Find Steed, this does make that a little bit more valuable and easy to use. So for a fighter, a very niche perk. For a paladin, kind of nice. Precise Strike is the next feature. Once per turn, when you make a weapon attack roll against a creature, you can cause the roll to have advantage, and if the attack hits, you roll a d8 and add that to the damage. You can do that a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, but you only expend a use if the attack hits, and you regain all of it on a long rest. So what does this mean? As opposed to how you would use this if it was a Battlemaster feature, only expending this on a hit means that you can do this potentially a lot. Having advantage does not guarantee that you'll hit even if you have a high modifier. It's certainly possible and very soul crushing to roll 2 1s back to back, or just roll 2 low results back to back. So this is great in terms of resource preservation. Now, there's no built-in scaling to the damage dice here, but a d8 is pretty decent damage to add in a smite-like fashion. And the fact that this is proficiency bonus means that your number of uses is going to naturally scale from 2 to 6 depending on what level you get to. So this is kind of excellent as a feat, especially when you hold it up against, Martial Adept, which is the kind of PHB equivalent where you would get a Battlemaster maneuver. This is far superior, and you can kind of see, particularly in this design, where you're kind of locking it behind that Dragonlance campaign, because this is significantly more powerful. Now, just a general note, I don't think any of the martial ones in particular are egregiously powerful. I think you could allow these just fine, and with the sheer number of feats we have now giving additional spellcasting, I don't think it would hurt to allow the martial feats in general campaigns just to give martial characters more options. Moving on. Now, unlike the previous feat trees we had, where you had to choose a moon and then that gated you out, that's not the case here. You don't make any choices with Squire of Solamnia, and there's also nothing that locks you out of any of these. You could take all of them sequentially if you want to, and as these are all half feats, it makes them very, very affordable to fit into your progression. So starting off first, so we have a little breakout box here. So you start off as a Knight of the Crown and then move on to join others, whether it follows a path or retain what they learned, blah blah blah. So this is basically saying that you typically start here and you can move to the others, but realistically choose whatever feats you want. So Knight of the Crown, 4th level, Squire of Solamnia feat as a prerequisite. It's a half feat, so you're going to be able to increase your strength, dex or constitution by +1 to max of 20. And the ability you get here is Commanding Rally. As a bonus action, you can command one ally in 30 feet to attack. If that ally can see or hear you, they immediately make one weapon attack as a reaction, and if it hits, they can roll a d8 and add that to the damage roll. You get to use this a number of times per your proficiency bonus per long rest. Now, the Battlemaster version of this sucks because it requires both your bonus action and one of your attacks. So this is already superior, and this is kind of a general theme. This is all basically just riffing off of Battlemaster maneuvers, but because they're not maneuvers that you can stack them with maneuvers and do both on an attack, it's really great. This is something that I would not pick in general. I would say this is going to be much more party dependent. You really need a party member that's going to be able to make effective use of that bonus action expenditure on your behalf and make an opportunity attack. So this is going to be highest value for things like rogues that could potentially use sneak attack, paladins that might be affected that could use smite, rangers that might have hunter's mark already set up on the target. And this is really leaning towards you building a character that is more kind of a warlord kind of build rather than straight up doing a lot of damage yourself. I don't think this is bad to fit into a general martial build, and it does offer some more teamwork than just hitting stuff on your own. But if you're looking for something that you can easily just say, I'm not interested in this for my build, this is the first one that I would really cross off. Next up we have Knight of the Rose, which allows you to boost your Con, Wisdom or Charisma by +1, and the ability you get is Bolstering Rally. As a bonus action, you can give one creature within 30 feet of yourself, and you can choose yourself, that can see or hear you temporary hit points equal to 1d8 plus your proficiency bonus, plus the ability modifier you increase with this feat. And you can use this a number of times, proficiency bonus per long rest. As I smash my desk. So this has multiple layers of scaling built in here. You have number of uses scaling with your proficiency bonus, and you have the formula for the temp HP scaling both off your proficiency bonus and boosting your ability modifier. Now this is going to boost Constitution, Wisdom or Charisma. So this is particularly going to be good for paladins that want to have higher charisma for their aura and their spell save DC. Depending what kind of fighter you're playing, you might want to have a higher charisma or wisdom. So a samurai is going to want to have a higher wisdom because it adds to their persuasion. Or if you're playing, rather fittingly actually, a banneret or purple dragon knight, which generally not a very good fighter subclass, but it does have an incentive to boost charisma, then this would be favorable. I would say even if you don't ongoingly boost the ability modifier, as long as you have a decent modifier to begin with, which includes boosting it with this feat, then I would say that this is worth it. Temporary hit points can be extremely valuable even if you only boost them to yourself. A d8 is going to be an average of 4.5, so let's be conservative and say that even with this feat boosting it, you only have a +2 in whatever ability score it is, which can be Constitution for your own hit points and stuff. Then +2, you're going to get this at level 4, so +2. So this is going to be an average of 8.5 temp HP when you get it, and then immediately at level 5 jump up to 9.5. That's going to represent a solid hit. Obviously you can roll lower on the d8, but you could also roll higher. I think this is a solid temp HP source for a martial character, and I think that the best way to do this is either going to be boosting your charisma on a paladin or your constitution on anything else. Again, certain cases you might want to bump wisdom, particularly if you've taken this on a ranger, haven't got the background earlier. But generally speaking, I would say paladin, charisma or constitution otherwise, and the temp HP formula is good enough that I do recommend this. And finally we have Knight of the Sword. This is going to let you boost your intelligence, wisdom or charisma by 1. Now since this is boosting mentals, if you did want to grab multiples of these feats, which is particularly viable on a fighter with that additional 6th level ASI, then this is going to stack really well, potentially, depending what you boosted, with the previous feat. If you boosted Wisdom or Charisma, going to get you more of those temp HP. Now this ability, Demoralizing Strike, once a turn when you hit a creature with a weapon attack roll, you can attempt to frighten it. Makes a Wisdom saving throw, DC 8 plus your proficiency, plus the ability modifier you increase. On a failed save, it's frightened of you until the end of your next turn. On a successful save, the target has disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes before the end of its next turn. And of course you can use this proficiency bonus times per long rest. Now this is actually kind of excellent because there's no fail state here really. If you frighten them, then they get disadvantage on all attacks as long as they can see you and they can't approach you. If they're immune to frighten or they just succeed their wisdom saving throw, then they still have disadvantage on the next attack roll, which is entirely divorced from the frightened condition. So unlike the maneuver, which if the creature's immune to frighten, you're just, bleep out of luck, this has versatility and usefulness against all creatures. And because you'll give them disadvantage no matter what. You also don't really need to invest in your DC save either. Like, even if your DC is woefully low, like, let's say a +1 or even a 0 ability modifier, you're still going to get an effect from this, and your uses are still going to naturally expand with your proficiency bonus. So this is something that I do recommend, but I would primarily recommend this if you're taking Knight of the Rose, and particularly if you used Wisdom or Charisma with Knight of the Rose. And I would especially recommend this if you have Battlemaster maneuvers from Martial Adept or from the fighting style, maybe you picked up with Fighting Initiate on a different class. And generally with all of these, just being able to mix these with maneuvers, sneak attack, smites, gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of effects, damage, and can really flesh out a martial character to just have that much more oomph. I'm very happy overall with all of these martial feats. I would recommend that they be put in to most campaigns, really. I feel it does flesh out what martials are capable of. In terms of the caster feats, you can put them in. I don't think any of them are particularly out of line. However, I also think that casters have had the most support with the ongoing release of new spells and the sheer number of feats that allow you to have additional spell casting, particularly with second level spells. But that's just my thoughts, my rambling 26-minute thoughts. What do you think of these feats? Let us know in the comment section down below. Whilst you're down there, why don't you smite that like button and hit that subscribe button? Every little helps. Until next time, I've been Paul, and I hope you have a great day.